Hi, this is Randy Danielson, and welcome to this mini lecture entitled The Paper, the Audience, and Choosing the Right Journal. Okay, well, before sitting down to write a paper, you should answer the following 6 questions. Number 1, what do I have to say? In other words, what will be the message of the paper? Number 2, is the paper worth writing? Number 3, have I already published such a paper or any part of its probable content? Number 4, what will be the right format? Number 5, who is the audience for this message? And 6, what is the right journal for that audience? And we'll talk more about that. Okay, let's start with what do I have to say? Well, you have to ask yourself, what is the message? What's the message that I want to give to the audience? What's useful to readers? What questions do I need to discuss that's important to an audience? And what is the main question that your paper will aim to answer? And then how are you going to present it? Is it in research paper format, case report format, review article or meta-analysis, or an opinion paper? All questions you should be asking yourself at this point. And here's the most important question of all. Is the paper worth writing? What is out there in the literature? And then you have to ask yourself the question, so what? And who cares if you write about this particular topic or not? Make sure that you ask yourself that question and perhaps share it with others and have them respond as well. All right, now, have I already published such a paper or any part of its probable content? Well, it's true that scientific publishing is costly. Many editors do not want to give space to something that's been published elsewhere. Although some circumstances may justify repetitive publication, it doesn't occur very often. Now you have to ask yourself, what will be the right format for my paper? And my advice is that you choose the shortest format for what you have to report. Now, if it's a research paper, there are certain parameters for that. A case report, a review article, and in fact, if you look at many of the journals that you are probably already reading, there will be a discussion in there about a review article or a meta-analysis. Or is it an opinion paper? Is it an editorial? So you need to figure out which one of those it is. Now let's talk a little bit about the audience. I mean, who really cares about what you're going to write about? Also, don't confuse the probable audience with the audience that you feel needs the paper. It's been my experience that you need to narrow the audience. It makes it easier to write. In other words, it'd be nice to write a paper for all of medicine, but it's unlikely that you'll be able to get that published. So you may need to narrow down your audience. In other words, your audience might be physician assistants and nurse practitioners. It may be PAs in ENT or emergency medicine. I think you get my point. Now that we've talked about the audience, let's talk about the right journal for that audience. So choose a list of journals before you start to write. This will allow you to write the article according to the authorship guidelines, which are almost always found in the journal. Is the topic of the proposed paper within the scope of that journal? Is the topic in it frequently or only rarely? Would it offer the best match of audience with that topic? And what formats does the journal accept? Does it publish an information per author's page? Usually they do. So if you go through this checklist, it will increase your chances for publication. So once again, make a list of journals that you want to think about in terms of writing an article for. Now that we've talked about the audience, let's talk about the right journal for that audience. So choose a list of journals before you start to write. This will allow you to write the article according to the authorship guidelines, which are almost always found in the journal. Is the topic of the proposed paper within the scope of that journal? Is the topic in it frequently or only rarely? Would it offer the best match of audience with that topic? And what formats does the journal accept? Does it publish an information per author's page? Usually they do. So if you go through this checklist, it will increase your chances for publication. So once again, make a list of journals that you want to think about in terms of writing an article for. Make a list of journals that you frequently read. If your first choice of the journal is not on your list, then you have to ask yourself, will the topic hold my interest, and do I know enough about the topic? Now, new journals offer both positive and negative points. New journals may not be sponsored by an association or a board. They may not have a large circulation. And unfortunately, the journal may not stay in business, so your publication will, in essence, disappear. So you have to take a closer look at new journals. On the positive side, new journals are usually hungry for material. Their standards sometimes may not be as high initially, and they have fewer articles to choose from, and that increases your chances for publication. Now, I've said this before, but it's really important. Please review the information for authors section of the journal that you select, no matter how familiar it is to you. Authorship instructions may have changed since the last time that you looked at it, and be sure that your content is appropriate for the journal. There's nothing more depressing than to write an article for a particular journal and find out they have changed their information, and thus your article would not be appropriate for that journal. Okay, here are the 10 take-home points for this mini lecture, and actually 10 questions. First of all is the topic of the paper within the journal's stated scope? Question number 2, how large is the journal's circulation? Question number 3, who reads the journal? Will your topic be appropriate for their interests and needs? Question number 4, do the instructions for authors indicate that the format and topic of your paper are appropriate? Question number 5, what is the usual time between journal acceptance and publication? Question number 6, how well are photographs and other graphic materials reproduced? If you have important photos, be sure not to send your article to a publisher that doesn't reproduce them well. This is especially true with radiographs and EKG strips. Question number 7, does the journal have both high scientific respect and a reasonable acceptance rate? Most good journals reject about 50% of the articles they receive. They may also accept the journal and hold it for future publication. Question number 8, is the journal covered by the major abstracting and title listing services? Question number 9, will you have to pay page charges, which is a fee for printing each page of the article? Is there a charge for publishing color photos? While in the medical community this is not the case, it's an important question to ask. Question number 10, what is the cost for reprints for your published article? Okay, well listen, why don't we take a break, and then you can go on to part 2 of this mini lecture when you get a chance.